Hello everyone, a very good evening to all of you. Welcome to StudyIQ IAS English. My name is Abhishek Singh, and once again in this week I am in front of you with the news of science this week. So this is weekly science current affairs that you all are waiting for, and here in this part of the weekly science current affairs we will be discussing once again the top 5 news related to the field of science, technology, environment, etc. during this week. So let's get started without any further delay. However, before proceeding further, let me tell you one thing, that we are launching our morning batches for the UPSC Civil Services 2024, and if you are the aspirant who is looking to clear this examination in the very first attempt, then this program is specially curated for all of you, and as it includes our prelims to interview program, the P2I program, it includes everything necessary for clearing your prelims examination and your mains examination, and also getting into the final selection list after clearing your interview. It will have all the details related to the general studies part, related to the prelims practice, mains practice, and also the interview guidance. So do not delay it. It is available in the English and bilingual. All these batches are there, Hindi, English and bilingual. So you can get yourself enrolled in whichever batch you like. Now let's move to the news of this week related to the field of science. So the first of all, if we talk about this particular news, okay. Scientists discovered that universe has a background hum, okay. So all of you might have heard in our ancient scriptures that there is a constant sound, of the universe. This humming sound, okay, this humming sound is basically, you may call it as a similar to the Om sound, right? This Om hum, this humming exactly. Scientists have discovered something very similar. Now, no need to mix up the religion or theology with the science. However, you can at least get an idea that which type of sound has been discovered. So an international group of the scientists, they have made a groundbreaking discovery that is basically confirming the existence of the gravitational waves. These gravitational waves were first of all envisioned by Albert Einstein. Okay, Albert Einstein had already envisioned that there are the gravitational waves. And what is the meaning of this gravitational waves? Basically, these gravitational waves, they are detected at very low frequencies. They create a cosmic background hum, right? Hum is basically a continuous, mild and soothing sound that is generated, that permeates the universe. So this sound actually goes through the universe. It just permeates the entire universe. Now the research that indicates that the gravitational waves are in fact, they are encompassing the entire universe, right? Whenever they oscillate over the extended periods and originating from the pairs of the supermassive black holes, is spiraling and merging together. It is like, if I would tell you, so it is like basically the two black holes, okay? It is like two black holes, and the two black holes, they are basically spiraling around each other. They are spiraling around each other and constantly coming closer, and eventually they would be merging, right? They would be merging with each other. So that is basically a process which is happening and resulting into the gravitational waves generation and resulting into the formation of the sound. Constant humming sound is there. All right, everyone. Now, coming back to the news once again. So here, if I tell you about the gravitational waves, okay. So Einstein initially proposed the existence of the gravitational waves or the ripples in the space-time as early as in 1916. Okay. Not just that, it was just an extension of his revolutionary theory of the general relativity, which he famously described the gravity as the distortion of the space and time caused by the matter. Now, let us understand one concept here. Suppose if I am telling you there is a stretch of space and time. Okay, this is the stretch of the space and time. All right, and here suppose there is a massive matter, there is a accumulation of matter. Okay, suppose this is a sun, this is sun. Okay, so how would it look like? How would it look like if you watch it a linear, right, watch it into a linear diagram? It would be something very, very similar to this. Okay, so this is the stretch of the space and time continuum, and this is the matter which is creating the distortion. The accumulation of matter is creating the distortion here, and that is basically named as gravity. This distortion effect is basically named as gravity. All right, and this distortion, or any type of distortion, we all are aware that if something is constant and there is a distortion, that will generate some sort of effect, some sort of, you know, transfer of the energy, transfer of the stages of the energy. So here this is also said to be generating, said to generate the gravitational waves, or also called as the G waves. All right, so this is basically proven now, experimentally proven now, which was proposed way back in 1916, right? So scientists have finally got through the exact evidence of this. In fact, the data for the latest report that has come here, the data for the latest report that was collected by the North American Nanohertz Observatory for the gravitational waves, called as the NanoGrav, which is the laboratory, NanoGrav laboratory. Basically, that was Physics Frontier Center, and also 190 scientists from the United States and Canada. So they had all worked hard for the 15 long years to collect this data, and then they have proven it. That there is a constant sound coming from the formation of the gravitational waves, which are the result of the two spiraling huge massive black holes coming closer towards each other, right, and leading to the collision. Now, so I hope you got the very clear idea about it. All right, everyone. Now moving to the next news. Next news is NASA, related to the NASA, which sees the moon lunar mining trials within the next decade. Okay, lunar mining trials. What is the meaning of the lunar mining trials, by the way? See, the lunar mining trials is if I'm talking about, lunar basically indicates related to the moon. Okay, related to the moon. So NASA is looking to develop the resources on the moon that initially include the oxygen and water, and eventually it may expand to iron as well as the rare earth elements, which have already taken steps to excavation of these above materials by the year 2032. So as you all might be aware that the various missions to the moon, they have revealed that moon is having the reserves of the rare earth metals, right, rare earth elements particularly, and it might be a source in the future. It might be a source for these minerals all over from the earth, right, for the earth. So here we can say one thing, that at least in order to exploit these things commercially, NASA has started the mining trial. In fact, it has started the planning to start the mining trials by the next decade anyhow. Currently, we are in 2023, and NASA plans that it will be conducting the trials on the surface of the moon by the year 2032. In fact, a key part of this mission is advancing the commercial opportunities, as I told you, because they want to reduce the cost of the voyages to the moon or to the other planets. In fact, it is believed that the gravitational pull of the moon is comparatively 1/6 of that value of the earth. So eventually, if the minerals of the moon, they are excavated, or if the commercial facilities are developed, then probably in the future the space launches etc. might take place at the surface of the moon, which would eventually in the long run, that would reduce the cost That would reduce the cost. Okay, initially it might be having the higher cost because obviously the formation of the materials will be incurring more and more cost to suit the surface of the moon or the environment of the moon. However, once it will be suitably formed, then that will be reducing the overall long run costings of such projects. The first customers are expected to be the commercial rocket companies who could use the moon's resources for the excavation of the fuels or excavation of the oxygen, etc. Basically, if that is possible, if that happens, as you can see here, the surface of the moon, right? If that happens, that will drastically reduce the cost, right? That will drastically reduce the cost incurring into the moon expeditions of the various space agencies on the Earth. All right, everyone. Now, if I'm talking about, right, if I'm talking about some another venture, right, some other ventures of the similar nature. So Australian Space Agency is involved in developing a semi-autonomous rover that will demonstrate the collection of the lunar soil that contains oxygen. Basically, Australian Space Agency is also trying to make its rover present on the surface of the moon, which would be collecting the samples of the lunar soil. Okay, and that will also try to excavate or try to extract the oxygen out of that soil sample. Using the separate equipments, right? Separate equipments, even NASA will also try to extract the oxygen from the moon soil. Okay, from the moon soil. We can call it as the lunar regolith. What is the term that is used here? The term that is used here, that is called as the lunar regolith. Okay, it is called as the lunar regolith, which means lunar means the moon, and regolith basically indicates, right? Regolith basically indicates the surface of the moon's crust. Okay, and this broken and dusted surface of the moon crust is basically the result, right? It basically results into the formation of the soil. Okay, now this will be a key step towards establishing a sustainable human presence on the moon, as well as supporting the future missions to the Mars, etc., and developing the access to the lunar resources that will also lead to the cost cutting, as well as the comparatively less costlier operations, right? Less costlier operations, and therefore there will be the possibility to develop the connection of the circular economy between the Earth and the moon, right? So we can utilize the resources of the moon on the Earth to create further missions and expeditions going again back to the moon, right? So this is how NASA and other space agencies are planning to utilize the resources of the moon. Moving to the next news. So here, the third major news related to this week, that is, the scientists detect the ghost particles emerging from the Milky Way in the landmark discovery. All right. So basically, the ghost particles, this is in the news of the recent week. Earlier, in fact, till now, we all must have learned that to watch anything or to see anything, we must have the reflection of the photons or the light particles, obviously, the reflection of the photons coming back from that particular material or that particular body towards our receptors in the eyes. Our brain should be able to process that. Okay, and then we are able to see a particular object. Now this is very, very important discovery. And why so? Because the ghost particles are the only thing which have made us to see something, and they are right, and that visibility is not due to the light, I hope you got the idea that till now whatever things we observe, that observation is because of the light, because light rays, right, basically light particles, photons are reflected from that particular object. However, the ghost particles are also helpful in making us visualize something. Now, what is this discovery? Let us find out. So, according to the space.com, the neutrinos are formed radioactive, right? Formed from the radioactive decay, something that occurs in the nuclear reactors when high energy particles strike the atoms. So, basically, these ghost particles are believed to have originated as the reaction part, as a part of the reaction of the formation of the neutrinos. Now, what are the neutrinos, by the way? You might have heard about the neutrons, right? Electrons, protons. These are all the subatomic particles, isn't it? Subatomic particles. However, if we talk about neutrons, then you might remember that neutrons are basically, they are the massive subatomic particles, right? Subatomic particles, leading to what? Leading to the dissipation of energy, right? Energy once they are distorted. Okay, once they are distorted. So what happens that these distortions, they lead to the further breakdown of the neutrons, and the resultant particles are basically the neutrinos and antineutrinos. Neutrinos and antineutrinos. Right? They are indicated by this symbol of nu. Okay. They are indicated by this symbol of nu. Right? So they are basically called as the neutrino. Right? Neutrino. All right, everyone. So now the ghost particles are extremely difficult to spot because they barely interact with the rest of the physical world, and therefore they simply pass through. Suppose, for example, I am a body in the space, then what will happen? The ghost particles will simply surpass through my body without interacting with any of the components, any of the components or elements in our body. So that is why they are named ghost, right? They are not possible to be touched or to be felt or to be stopped by the macro particles in our body or in the entire universe. Got it? So as per BBC, the scientists used detectors at an ice cube neutrino observatory at the Amundsen Scott South Pole station. So Amundsen Scott South Pole station, there is a laboratory. There is a laboratory called as the Ice Cube Neutrino Observatory, which is the one, Ice Cube Neutrino Observatory, right? At that observatory, these neutrinos have been, detected, right? So if we talk about these neutrinos, so here, this is the first time we are seeing our galaxy using the particles other than the photonic particles. All right, everyone. So this is really important to understand, because as I told you in the very beginning, that we have never ever used anything else except photon to directly visualize anything in the entire universe. Earlier also we have received the signals in the form of the radio signals, in the form of the you can say ultrasonic waves or anything else. We have converted those things into the visible images. That's a different thing. But here we are directly observing. Something, but that is not with the help of light, with the help of the ghost particles, right? So the neutrino is a ghostly particle, is basically almost without mass. They are essentially moving at the speed of light and might pass through the galaxy and not interact with anything. As per the BBC, the scientists used the detectors at the Ice Cube Neutrino Observatory, and this observatory is embedded within the gigaton of the ice. It encompasses 0.24 cubic miles of the Antarctic ice. So basically 1 cubic kilometer. 1 kilometer length, 1 kilometer is the width, and 1 kilometer is the thickness. So that is basically the amount of the ice which has been accumulated at a place at the South Pole, and there there is the observatory called as the basically right ice cube neutrino observatory. And this observatory, it has got more than 5,000 light sensors. Then we are able to observe this neutrino, or we call it as the ghost particle. Okay, everyone. So I hope you got the idea. Now moving to the next point. Okay, next point, which shows very clearly the picture of this particular observatory. As you can see here, the picture of this particular observatory, and this is the starry night here, and this is actually surrounded by the 1 cubic kilometer of the ice located at the South Pole. Got it, everyone? Now moving to the next point. Now, so Brazil GEF meet, Brazil GEF meet, the agreement on the new biodiversity conservation fund. So dear students, biodiversity has been a major issue to safeguard our earth and the life on our earth. So the 64th global environment facility, or the GEF, the meeting of the 64th global environment facility governing board has approved the plans to establish a new fund called as the Global Biodiversity Fund. Okay, Global Biodiversity Fund, and that will be to implement the programs which are called as the coming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. Remember the name once again, coming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, which was adopted in December 2022. Now this topic can give a direct question in the UPSC prelims examination. All right. So this name is very, very crucial. Please remember this name. Once again, I am telling it for you, coming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. Got it, everyone? So this approval is basically important, as nearly 50% of the funds are to be used for the biodiversity related work in the upcoming years. All right, everyone. So currently we are in the global environmental facilities, global environment facilities 8th year or 8th plan, and here we are going to use the 50% of the total allocated funds under this program, for the upcoming years. We are going to use the 50% for the conservation of the biodiversity, and that's why the allocation of the funds are very, very essential, because at present we are losing our biodiversity at the fastest rate recorded ever in our history. Recorded ever. It can be understood at a rate, for example, suppose if we were losing, for example, 10 species, if we were losing 10 species out of 10,000, okay, in the span of 1,000 years, then we are losing almost 100 species out of 10,000 in the span of only 100 years. So the span of loss of the species has reduced and the rate has increased. So it has resulted into a multiplied effect on the loss of the biodiversity. So that's why it is very, very essential, because the Global Environment Facility will provide the $1.4 billion support, to provide the support to the efforts of the environmental protection, and that's why it is very, very crucial, very, very crucial. Not just that, if I am telling you that Global Biodiversity Framework Fund, the GEF, GBFF, that can be ratified by the Ministers of the Environment and Finance of the member countries at the 7th GEF Assembly at Vancouver, Canada in August. So in the upcoming August, we are going to see the 7th Global Environment Facility, and basically this GEF, is going to be organized in the Vancouver in the upcoming August, where this framework will enable the member states particularly, and the ministers of the member states to approve or to ratify this biodiversity framework fund, so that the amount which is decided, that is $1.4 billion, that can be disbursed to the member countries and to the other countries which are particularly vulnerable to the biodiversity losses, right now. So in which manner are the funds, going to be disbursed? That is also mentioned here. All right, everyone. So please pay attention that basically this council, the council has decided to disburse the funds in following manner. 20% will be going to the indigenous people and local communities. All right, everyone. Because the indigenous communities or the local communities are considered as the most significant members in the effort of biodiversity conservation, because they have got the better techniques and better knowledge of the conservation of the natural biodiversity in their respective areas. Then 25% will go to the global environment fund agencies and must be enforced. So this 25% will be mandatory to be spent in order to protect the environment by the GEF. Then allocation of the funds to the indigenous people and the local communities would be reviewed 2 years after the ratification in the August. So once the funds will be ratified by the member ministers, okay, the member state ministers, then for the 2 years the funds will be available to the indigenous people and local communities, and then after 2 years it will be reviewed that up to which extent has it been utilized, what has been the efficiency of the funds allocation and the utility, and what are the results basically obtained after the allocation of the funds to the indigenous people and the local communities. Getting the point here, everyone? So after that, SIDS and LDC, SIDS and LDC. So basically small islands, developing countries and small islands and developing countries and the least developed countries. Okay, small islands, developing states and least developing countries, they will be getting 36% and 3% respectively. Why there is so much of difference? Because particularly if we observe the small island nations, they are the most vulnerable nations for the climate change, for the biodiversity losses, and also for the increasing carbon concentration in the atmosphere. So in each and every manner, they are the most vulnerable to any type of environmental damages, environmental losses, and that's why they are going to get the maximum share, 36% of this 1.4 billion US dollar which is being allocated through the establishment of this particular fund. Okay. Now this would be reviewed 3 years after the ratification. So here let me tell you the difference. 20% will be given to the indigenous people and the local communities, and that will be ratified at the end of the 2 years. Okay, at the end of the 2 years. And the small island developing countries, they are going to get 36%. Least developed countries are going to get 3%. And then these allocations of 36% and 3%, they are going to be ratified in the August, and then they are going to be reviewed after 3 years of time period. Okay, so this fund allocation should be working for 3 years. Now, the members agreed to support the new agreements under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, which is also known as the UNCLOS. Okay, United Nations Convention on the Law of the Seas, that basically regulates and guides the international sea-related behaviors in the field of the research or in the field of the excavation of the resources, etc. So basically, this UNCLOS has also been ratified, and sustainable use of the marine biological diversity in the areas beyond the national jurisdiction, that has also been agreed upon. So usually what was happening, what were the problems in the UNCLOS? Because this was not able to contain or not able to regulate the, you can say, unsolicited or you can say disputed burial of the waste products into the deep oceans, particularly by the developed countries who were which were dumping their waste products, particularly the radioactive waste, etc., somewhere into the deep oceans nearby the areas where the national jurisdictions were not present. This was contaminating the oceanic water. This was also leading to the generation of such wastage which might have the very much procrastinating, right, very much procrastinating effect. So that's why this change has also been brought into the UNCLOS, and this has been accepted by all the member states of the Global Environment Facility. All right, everyone. So this is about this particular news related to the approval of the fund. Now moving to the next news, the World Asteroid Day. So dear students, World Asteroid Day is actually observed on the 30th June. Okay, 30 June. And why so? Because on the 30th June in the year 1908, it was simply a normal day on the earth when a mega explosion equivalent to the 12 to 15 megatons of the TNT that occurred in the air over Siberia. Air, not on the ground. Occurred in the air over Siberia, and it was one of the most powerful explosions ever recorded, flattening an area of about 2,150 square kilometers, local forest and people and everybody else, because in that area the density of population in Siberia is very, very low. Even now we can imagine the situation way back in 1908. Still 3 people were killed. And the forest etc. were completely dumped. Okay, so this cause, right, this cause of this Tunguska explosion, this is called as the Tunguska explosion. This is still completely not understood. The scientists have not been able to understand that what was exactly the reason behind this explosion. Okay, the most likely explanation for this explosion might be the breakdown of an asteroid or an particular comet, any particular spatial object might have fallen, might have entered into the atmosphere of the earth and might have led to this explosion. All right, everyone. So this was basically told that it was probably by the impact of a large asteroid or a comet which might have entered into the atmosphere of the earth and must have got exploded due to the friction and heat. All right. Now, what are asteroids? Suppose if asteroids are there, let me tell you that do not get confused, because if you are studying the science, you must be aware about the steroids. Okay, steroids. So these are related to the biology. Okay, steroids. These are a category of the hormones. Okay, steroidal hormones. Then, if we talk about the asteroids, now what is the asteroid? Asteroids. So basically these are the rocky fragments, rocky objects, right? Most often they were the leftover formations of the solar system about 4.6 billion years ago. So that is basically a near earth object when its distance from our planet is called, that is less than 1.3 times the distance of the earth to sun, right? So as we all are aware that the solar distance, that is almost you can say 150 miles at max. Okay, and if we observe it at the least, so that somehow goes to the 14 crore kilometers. So between that 14 crore kilometers to 15 crore kilometers. All right, so it is the average range. Now, if any object, any asteroid, if it is closer to the earth, as close as 1.3 times or less than that distance which is between the earth and sun, then we will call it as the near earth object. All right, everyone. Then if we talk about this Tunguska event, right, this Tunguska event, actually it was a landmark event in the understanding of the external objects by the scientists of the earth, obviously, because after that the scientists started studying the probable falling of the asteroids or probable near earth asteroids in the upcoming future. In fact, NASA It currently tracks and catalogs the rough rocks in the space and maintains their orbit to predict their movement in advance. Okay. So guys, you might have heard the different names, by the way. You might have heard about the asteroids. Okay. Asteroids. You might have heard about the meteoroids or meteors, comets. These are all the different type of the rocky objects present in our solar system, right? If we talk about particularly the asteroids, we might have heard about the asteroidal belt. Asteroidal belt. We might have heard about the Kuiper belt. Okay. If we are talking about the asteroids, basically they are present between Mars and the Jupiter. Okay. They are, hundreds and thousands of the asteroids present in that belt. All are revolving around the sun. If we are talking about the Kuiper's belt, then beyond Neptune, beyond Pluto, they are the distant rocky fragments. Some of the, you can say, hay fragments, right? Hay fragments or the strange, right? The strangled fragment, right? So strangled fragments, they are basically the meteorites. When they are small in the size, when they enter into our atmosphere, then they are called as the meteors. Okay. And what are the comets? Comets are basically the rocky or icy masses or the massive objects which are revolving around the sun in an elliptical path, usually displayed with having a shiny tail along, right? Having a shiny tail. For example, Halley is a comet. Okay, so these are very simple things. You must have heard these and you must have read these things in school books. However, still the students are often confused in the identification of these things. So let me tell you one thing, that all these points are very, very crucial for our examination, and we can have the statement based questions, or we can have the questions where we have to choose the correct statements, etc. So all these things are present. All right, everyone. So I hope that these 5 news must have made you to understand about the developments which took place in this week in the field of science and technology and environment. If you find this lecture useful for your examination, do not forget to hit the like button, my dear students, and also you can share this with your friends at the same time. If you are aspiring candidate for 2024 examination of civil services, do not forget to join our morning batches, the very special P2I or the prelims to interview batch, where we are offering you the comprehensive coverage of the general studies, current affairs, test series, and everything will be provided to you. The very special thing will be the mains residential program, where you will get the accommodation, residence, etc. all by StudyIQ, okay, at the Delhi NCR campus. Facility of library will be given along with the classroom guidance. So all these things at which cost? Very, very nominal. Remember those days when, if you are willing to live in Delhi, suppose living in Delhi cost more than 1.5 lakh, more than 2 lakhs in a year, if you are living in a very, very diminishing manner. However, here we are offering this course at rupees 70,000, but that is also conditional, that if you are using this code ASR live, then you are going to get this course at rupees 29,999 rupees only. So I don't think that there is a better opportunity for any candidate who is a serious aspirant for civil services 2024, that to take the benefit of this and to crack this examination in the very first attempt. So all right, that's all from my side, guys. Thank you so much for watching it. And in case if you want the PDF or the other documents related to this class or any of class, right, that I have taken, you can join my Telegram groups. And thank you so much for watching it. Take care, bye-bye, and let's meet in the next session. Till then, have a great day. Jai Hind.